You want break?
No, I'm asking, are we taking a break or just are we proceeding, sir? I didn't
Prof,
hear
should we
that.
take breaks? Maybe 10, 15 minutes?
No, we can proceed if there's no need.
Okay.
Maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, we should take 10 minutes break.
Yeah, so we'll be back by 10:20.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, sir.
But sir, I see that. How can we get your slides? I think everybody has gone. Takes you forever to mute. Understand this one. Why should it take you forever to mute? I'm back, sir.
Okay, sir. You're welcome back, sir.
Yes, sir.
What about the rest? Dr.
Mr.
Kuyemi,
Adekunle,
Mr. Adekunle, Mr. Ahmed.
Dr.
We've not had Ahmed's voice today, and it's our class
Yeah.
rep.
He's a very bad class rep now. I'm not even sure I can't see him on the call.
He was there when we started.
He's still there. Ahmed, bad class rep. He's not helping us at all. Though he's registering so many students. So,
Okay.
but I thought he would find a way to free himself. The thing is that they know that they must pass this exam. Otherwise, sometimes what you can pay for and you collect it from an authority, they will ask you questions. Even if you had paid the 100,000 yourself, and you may joke with it, but this one, they are going to formally ask for the results because they don't want to waste any time. So
they have to sit down and do it.
yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely saying we can. No, we can proceed. That's 10. Okay. Adekunle, Engineer Adekunle, are you there? Ahmed, are you there? We will mark you absent. I think you should start marking. If you guys don't talk, we will start doing poll. We start doing attendance arbitrarily at any time. So you should talk. It looks like Professor is trying to talk.
His network seems to be bad.
Yes, they just moved to a new block. I think they're having a lot of challenges there.
Okay.
But Mr. Adekunle is there. Mr. Adekunle is still there. Ahmed is here. Dr. Kwemi actually traveled, but he's still connected.
Okay. It's okay. So we can start, right?
I think we should start, sir.
Okay. So this chapter is about security, local area network security. This one, this particular chapter and the next chapter, that is 10 and 11. No, I'm not doing any labs on those ones. They're just teaching us how to secure our labs. Our local area network and then the switch. So this is going to be very fast. If we're able to finish this chapter in 1 hour, we can proceed to the next one before 12 o'clock. But let's see how far we can go. These are just telling you, these are things you need to do to further secure your local area network. So because what the Cisco is trying to do now is they're trying to kind of put in security into every curriculum. Even if you go to A+ now, you learn some part of security. You come to networking, you learn part of security, and so on and so forth. So let's see what we got here. We're going to talk briefly about endpoint security because this is a whole chapter in cybersecurity. A whole chapter in cybersecurity. Going to talk about access control. Want to talk about layer 2 security threat, MAC addressable attack, LAN attack. These are all the things we are going to talk about. And this one is going to be very fast and straightforward. I will just show you the prompts, the commands, the prompts, what you are trying to secure, or the vulnerability you are trying to probably lock down. That's the way I'm going to be doing chapter 10 and 11. So the first here is endpoint security. I hope I'm recording. Yeah. Endpoint security. Under endpoint security, basically endpoint security talks about the host, but the way they handle it in this place is a bit different. So it's more about under endpoint security, you have network attacks and all of that. But let's just go through the way it is here. So under endpoint security, we have network attacks today. Different types of attacks. The news media commonly cover attacks on enterprise network. Simply search the internet for latest network attacks to find up-to-date information on current attacks. Most likely, these attacks will involve one or more of the following. Just like somebody said, the devil has no new tricks or something like that. It's always variation of the same thing, of the same temptation. Same thing with attacks. So one of the attacks you could probably find out there is distributed denial of service attack. We have DOS attack, we have DDoS attack. What's the difference between the two? DDoS is more of sophisticated because it's coming from multiple computers to a server. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, somebody just.
Okay. So DDoS attack is the coordinated attack from many devices, and they call those devices zombies. What makes those devices zombies? Because they've been compromised. DDoS attack comes from multiple computers or multiple cameras. Like one attack that happened, I think it was last year. Surveillance camera from a particular company was compromised, or they were compromised all around the world, and they programmed them to start sending attacks to some website at the particular time and all of that. So the intention is just to reduce the availability of those resources. When I say availability, if your website is under attack, legitimate user that want to just go to your website to get one information or the other will not be able to access the website because the website is under attack. And most especially the resources, CPU resources, the RAM, all of this will max up and the website will no longer be accessible. Same thing with a regular server or just a computer. So DOS attack is one of the attacks on the network today. And then you can also have data breach. This is an attack in which an organization data server or host are compromised to steal confidential information. So when information is taken out of the organization, there is a breach already. You have malware. This is an attack in which an organization hosts are infected with malicious software that cause a variety of problems. For example, ransomware, such as WannaCry, encrypt the data on a host and lock access to it until a ransom is paid. This is very popular and is one of the deadliest attacks out there. It's one of the deadliest malware. And the reason why it is this malware is deadly is because it does not need administrative access before it can infect your system. What I mean by that is this: most malware out there need to install something on your system. And if they don't have the admin access, they cannot install on your system. And because most people use admin accounts, most people that use computer, they use admin accounts. So it's not a big deal. They can always install whatever they want to install. But for ransomware, it's not like that. And I call ransomware digital kidnapping. You just encrypt everything on your systems and you cannot get anything out there again. So there are devices we can use to secure ourselves. Our routers are there, our firewalls are there, our network access control are there. These are devices that we can use to secure ourselves. So one of the things we can do is probably you have a location, 2 different locations in different places. You can set up a VPN between those locations so that whatever you are doing from one location to the other, you are not exposed. Your data is encrypted between the 2 locations. It could be more than 2 locations. Also, you can have a firewall on your network to protect yourself. Now, the firewall Cisco talks about majorly nowadays is next generation firewall, because firewall has advanced. It's no longer like in the days of old where you do some basic filtering. Firewall has gone to the level of using AI. So like Cisco next generation firewall we talked about, or next generation firewall in general rather, the Cisco's own is called Firepower. They can do intrusion prevention. They can do advanced malware protection. They can do URL filtering. So what is the difference between this next generation firewall and the olden days firewall? Next generation firewall can strip your data up to the application layer. It can access your data up to application layer. Whereas the olden days firewall just they still at layer 3. Those IP address, destination IP address, or even maximum layer 4. The next generation firewall go up to layer 7. And even if you encrypt something, trying to pass it through the network, next generation firewall can decrypt all these things to be able to implement or effect the policy that's been configured on them. You also have network access control. You need to be able to control access to your organization, to your environment. And that is why you do authentication, authorization, and accounting. Authentication, authorization, and accounting. Authentication is you are authenticated into the network. You are allowed to access the network. Authorization is what are you allowed to do on my network. And accounting is when you are done doing whatever you want to do, I should be able to see all the things you have done on my network. And the most popular device appliance out there is Identity Service Engine. It belongs to Cisco. Cisco Identity Service Engine. These are network security devices that we can use to enhance security on our network, or let me say, perform security, implement that we can implement or we can use on iceberg of, let's say, CCNA security or CCNP security. So we can't really go in depth into some of these stuffs here. So talking about endpoint security, remember I said earlier, endpoint security majorly is about host computers, like your laptop, your tablet, your phone, anything you use to interface with the network. Those are called endpoints. So endpoints are hosts, which commonly consists of laptops, desktops, servers, and IP phones, as well as employee-owned devices. Endpoints are particularly susceptible to malware-related attack that originates through mail or web browsing. So how do we protect our endpoints? Basically, what people know majorly is antivirus. That's what people use majorly. Or let's say you activate the firewall on your machine. It's okay. But when you come to cybersecurity, you see that there is much more you can do. For instance, now, this admin account that I spoke about earlier, when you have a system, ideally you're supposed to have two accounts, admin account and standard accounts. On no occasion should you be using your admin account as a regular account. You should be using standard account. If you need to install something, you use your admin account. And the research has shown that using using standard account will reduce the attack surface, as cybersecurity terminology, by 80%. Meaning most of the attacks, most of the exposure that people have to attacks on the internet, when you use a standard account, not the admin account, you reduce the attack surface by 80%. But most people don't know. As long as they have antivirus and they activate firewall, they think that is all. It's much more beyond that. Endpoints have typically used traditional host-based security features such as antivirus, anti-malware, host-based firewall, host-based intrusion prevention system. All of these things can be implemented on endpoint. Today, endpoints today are best protected by a combination of network access control, that is like the ICE I spoke about, ARM software, that is the one on the next generation firewall, email security appliance, and web security appliance. So we don't just leave everything to the endpoint. For instance, now, if you get email and it has an attachment that is vulnerable, that will make it vulnerable or that is susceptible, that's not the word I'm looking for. That is, we can suspect it. As we're not sure of that attachment, before it even gets to the host, it's been taken out by email security appliance. What about web security appliance? You are going to a website and we feel like that website is not good for you. We block you from going to that website. So we don't just leave all the security to you and say, don't click this email, don't go to this website. We also bring in appliances, devices that can further protect you. So it's like you have multiple layers of protection. Yes, Prof.
Yeah, on email security, I thought can be vulnerable until somebody actually attacked me. And a mail was sent to me by somebody I know very well, and the mail was it was made to look as a PDF. So the moment I click on it, I realized it was not a PDF, it was actually an HTML. So I knew I've been attacked, and I shouted to the IT guys, but apparently they didn't take it seriously. So until, I mean, the guy, they then use my own mail that they've hacked into to send mails to everybody in the university.
Can you imagine?
So I think this email security appliance is very, very important.
Yeah.
I don't click on any link that I'm not familiar with, but that actually got me because it looks like PDF, and I thought PDF is safe. After all, it was
No
that.
file is saved because, like, some days ago, I was trying to send packet tracer to one of my students in the UK. Because packet tracer come with ESA, she couldn't download it. So I now I changed the extension to .pdf. And you see my packet tracer looks like a PDF file. I just right click and click rename and put .pdf. So I told her when you download it, change it to .ext. So no file is saved.
True.
Anything can be hidden in anything.
That's
And
exactly what I did.
yeah, that is the beauty of all of these appliances. The only challenge with Cisco is, having separate appliances everywhere, people don't like that. Some companies don't like that. That is why there are other companies like Palo Alto and Fortinet. They put everything in one machine. Email security appliance, web security appliance, anti-malware, anti-this in one machine. And it can do most of the things. But Cisco separates their own. Look at, you could have email security appliance separately, web security appliance separately, and so on and so forth. But the point is we need to be aware of all of these solutions. So before this thing gets to you, they've been filtered along the way. For instance, there's a feature in I think in Cisco Firepower called DP, something DP. It can protect your organization in such a way that you can decide to say any file that carries the name of maybe so title or has so content cannot be uploaded because people may want to move things out of the organization and try to attach and move out. It's going to block everything. So data prevention something, DP something, I can't remember. So data will not leak just like that because we have something that is protecting you. So the point now is it's not just enough to train the users. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. Training is important. Awareness is important, no doubt. But we have to take this to another level by putting things on the network that will enforce the policies we are trying to teach them to follow. We are going to take things. We have the authority, Lord. We have the control to decide on what comes in and what goes out. So that is the reason for some of these appliances.
Yes, is it possible to use other provider appliances?
Yeah, that's what I just mentioned now. Like Fortinet. Fortinet is very good.
Yes, Fortinet, we have used it very well.
And then Palo Alto too. Palo Alto is also a good product. Cisco shouldn't hear this from me, that I'm teaching their course and I'm telling you about other vendors.
No, but some of us have tried some. I know they are not perfect in everything.
Yeah.
Like
But
wireless access. I don't think, maybe it has happened now. Around the time I was active, around 2011, the wireless access is not the best. So
it's not the best. Yeah.
I use Xyros.
Yeah. So these other vendors like Fortinet and Palo Alto, they are very good. Very, very. I think right now Palo Alto seems to be the leader in the world of security now. Because based on those my students outside the country, they tell me what they come across in the field, most clients what they use and stuff like that. So Palo Alto is very good.
Okay, I'm just hearing Fortinet is what we use there.
Yeah, Fortinet is good too, very, very good. But I think Palo Alto is they seem to have more features than I've never used any of these devices, this Fortinet or Palo Alto. But I have one of my students that once worked with Palo Alto, and then from what she told me, it's like they are loaded, they have stuffs.
Palo Alto is a great place. I mean, if it's the same as Palo Alto Research Corporation, they actually discover so many things.
So we can use their devices, their appliances to enforce so many things on our network. So the first one we mentioned is Cisco Email Security Appliance. It has to do with more of email. The Cisco ESA device is designed to monitor simple mail transfer protocol. The Cisco ESA is constantly updated by written feeds from Cisco Talos. When you hear about it, Cisco Talos, that's like their own intelligence center where they gather all the information about the threats going on in the world. It detects and correlates threats and solution by using worldwide database monitoring system. This threat intelligence data is pulled by the Cisco ESA every 3 to 5 minutes because this ESA will not know if the mail that is dangerous or that is going to be detrimental to the organization. It has to keep on talking to the Cisco Talos. It has to keep on updating its database like you update antivirus, something like that.
Okay.
So what are the functions of this Cisco ESA? It blocks known threats. It remediates against stealth malware that evade initial detection. It discards email with bad links, block access to newly infected websites, encrypt content in outgoing email to prevent data loss. These are stuff that they can do for you, and other vendors can also do this for you. You know, they're always copying themselves. This technology of it, you do something, I will go and do my own too. And probably I'll be able to do it better than you. And we'll also have another one called the Cisco Web Security Appliance. It's a mitigation technology for web-based threats. This has to do with more of websites you goes to. It helps organizations address the challenges of securing and controlling web traffic. The Cisco WSA combines advanced malware protection, application visibility and control, acceptable use policy controls, and reporting. Cisco WSA, Web Security Appliance, provides complete control over how users access the internet. Certain features and applications such as chat, messaging, video, and audio can be allowed, restricted with time and bandwidth limit, and blocked according to the organization's requirement. All of this is Fortinet can do it for you. The problem with Fortinet, or let me say any of these devices, is like you have a rocket propeller launcher and you don't have an idea of how to use it. You just activated basic features. You are so changing yourself.
True.
The WSA can perform blacklisting of URL, URL filtering, meaning blocks from site, malware scanning, URL categorization, web application filtering, and encryption and decryption of web traffic. So all of these things are what this Cisco Web Security Appliance can do for you. Just like I said, other vendors combine everything together. That's just by the way, for us to talk about those some of those security. This is where we're really going in this particular chapter. Yep. So we need to talk about access control to our devices. We must have secure connection to our devices, and we talked about something like this when we did the configuration. I want to have a remote access to my system. I can use Telnet, I can use SSH. We talked about it. Why you shouldn't use Telnet, why you should go for SSH. Because Telnet is plain text. Anybody that captures whatever is going on in between can see what the conversation, can see your configuration and all of that. So this is how you set up for Telnet. We did that already. And you said don't use Telnet, go and use SSH. And in using SSH, what do? You set up a local database. You set up a local database and input. We have different users, different password, different user, different password. But even this local database has a limitation also. That's why you may want to use a server, radio server or Taka server. But you must not use Telnet. Go for something that is encrypted, which is your SSH. So I won't talk more on this. We did that already when we started the training. So if we go for radio server or Taka server, what are the things that these servers can do for us? It can do AAA for us. What is in AAA? I just mentioned it. Authentication, authorization, and accounting. It provides a primary framework to set up access control on a network device. So what is in the authentication? You are permitted to access the network. Authorization, what you can do while you are there. And accounting, what you did when you were there. We need to have visibility to all of this. We need to know. You shouldn't be on my network and I'm not aware of what you are doing or what you have done when you leave my network. I should have in-depth understanding or knowledge of what you have done. And these can be implemented with, what do you call it? With devices like radio servers or tracker server. So what is the limitation of local database? You have to keep on configuring things locally for different users that want to probably access your devices or all devices on the network. And that is not scalable. That is why you may want to use server and point those devices to the server and have the database on the server where you have your users and you have their username and give them privileges based on what they can do. So all the devices on your network, your routers, your switches, and everything, before anybody can access them, they have to pass through your radio server or tracker server, and so on and so forth. So for authentication, we can implement it locally and we can make it server-based. So if I'm using the local, meaning I'm going to create a local database, and they said this is only a deal for small network. Like what we did, we created a local database on our router when we did SSH. We can implement triple on our router. We can go beyond that. If you have a big network, you have plenty of devices on your network, we use server-based triple authentication. When you use server-based, what does that mean? There is a server that is dedicated. It's dedicated on your network just to do this work of authenticating people, authorizing people, and doing accounting. People, that server, all the devices will be pointed to that server. With the server-based method, the router accesses, see, a central AAA server. The AAA server contains username and password for all users. And you can have radio server, which is remote authentication dialing user server, or you can have tracker server, which is terminal access controller access control system. Any of the two can be used and it will work perfectly. I think they have one advantage over the other. One does, we are probably going to get them. When there are multiple routers and switches, server-based AAA authentication is more appropriate. Am I communicating?
Yes, sir.
So this is key when you want to do AAA. For small network, local database is okay. For big network, we need to use server-based approach. Authorization. AAA authorization is automatic and does not require users to perform additional steps after authentication. What is in the authorization? It governs what user can authenticated. Authorization uses it describes the user's access to the network. These attributes are used by the AAA server to determine privileges and restrictions for that user. You are going to be the one to set it. You can do this, you can't do that. You can do that, you can't do this, and so on and so forth. That's authorization. And accounting, I've just summarized. These are just tautology. We need to have an idea of what you have done on our network. Whether it is locally, we can check our routers, our switches to find out all the things you have done, or from our servers. We just get a report of all the things you did, when you started, when you ended, the commands you executed, the packet, and the numbers of bytes, and so on and so forth. So these are different things you can do to enhance the security of your network. You must be in charge. This is another thing that I don't think people really implement. Under access control, 802.1x. 802.1x standard is a port-based access control and authentication protocol. Take note of this. It is port-based access control. This protocol restricts unauthorized workstation from connecting to a LAN through publicly accessible switch port. So you plug to my network, that doesn't mean you are in. This authentication server authenticates each workstation that is connected to a switch port before making available any services offered by the switch or the LAN. So when you come to the network, this is very easy. It's easier implemented when you use MikroTik. When we create username and password for you in MikroTik using what we call a username, you get IP address, everything until you authenticate yourself. That is a form of 802.1x also. It is port-based and it enhances the security of your network. So how do you implement that if you want to? You are going to definitely have a dedicated server where you have all the details, the database of the users. You are going to have your switch, which we call authenticator.
Oh, hearing again.
Can you hear me, sir?
Now, yes.
Sorry,
Yes,
I think
I
my
can hear you
network
now.
just, I think it just
But not for the
fluctuated.
last 1 minute.
Yeah. Okay.
I can hear you now.
Okay. So, are you flowing with me, sir?
Sir?
Are you flowing with me, sir?
Yes, except the last 1 minute. 1
It's
minute, just
okay.
1
I will
minute.
repeat myself. I will repeat. So I'm trying to talk about the implementation of 802.1x. You have a server, you have your switch, and you have the client software that will be installed on all the hosts on the network. So what we are simply trying to do is to control access to our LAN. You plug to my network doesn't mean that you are connected to my network automatically. And this is it's implementable whether on wire or wireless. It doesn't matter how you connect to my network. I need to give you access, or you need to get access. How will you be given access? The server that has the database of the username and the password of everybody needs to authenticate you or needs to give you access to my local area network. I have never seen this implemented anywhere, but I've seen it implemented with MikroTik. Prof,
Okay,
you know about MikroTik router?
Necrotic is a trade name, manufacturer for routers, I think.
Yes, they have routers, they have switches.
Oh, that's interesting. Are they in the US? Are they US based or China?
No, it's Latvia, Russia. That's why they are not popular here.
Then it will be very good though.
They are very, very good. Their devices are very solid. We
I'm
use
going
it
to.
for a job with NGO like 3 years ago. You won't even know that the devices are working. They're still looking solid. They don't
Okay.
have problem. And the implementation, some things you pay a lot of money to get done on maybe Cisco devices or other devices. Peanuts, you get their devices, you have implemented those things. I'm also MikroTik certified. I do training on MikroTik too.
Okay.
Yeah, so MikroTiks, they have good stuff too. But you know, Cisco is still there, Oga at the top when it comes to curriculum, devices, equipment. They've been there for a long time.
True.
Yeah. So basically, that is just what I want to say about 802.1x. It is a port-based access control and authentication protocol. And you should always find a way to secure your network at the port level if it is possible. But it may be, if you don't have a solution that is very easy to implement, it's going to be cumbersome administrative stress for you. Like MikroTik now, once you do it on the router, anybody that connects to that network, they can't browse. They cannot join your network until they provide all the details you created for them on that router, on the MikroTik router. That's when they get access. We want to start talking about the threats at layer 2. Take note of this, please. Once layer 2 is broken, every other thing is broken.
Sure.
If layer 2 is broken, layer 3 is gone, layer 4 is gone, layer 5, layer 6, layer 7. So we need to find a way to secure our layer 2. Not just layer 2, we also need to find a way to secure layer 1. Somebody shouldn't be able to tap into your network physically, whether through wire or wireless. But beyond that, we also need to go to layer 2. So when we talk about security, we talk about layer 1 security, layer 2 security, layer 3 security, layer 4 security, all the way to layer 7 security. Let's see what we got here. Layer 2 vulnerability. Recall that the OSI reference model is divided into 7 layers, which work independently of each other. The figure shows the function of each layer and the core element that can be exploited. You've done a lot about OSI model. Network administrator routinely implement security solution. Take note to protect the element in layer 3 up to layer 7. We abandon layer 2. They use VPN. They use firewall and IPS devices to protect this element. These are layer 3 stuff. However, if layer 2 is compromised, then all other layers above are also affected. For example, if a threat actor with access to internal network capture a layer 2 frame, then all the security implemented on the layers above will be useless. The threat actor could cause a lot of damage. Threat actors are the bad guys on the layer 2 LAN network infrastructure. So we shouldn't just place premium on securing layer 3 and above. We should also factor in layer 2. What are the things we can do at layer 2 to protect layer 2? That is what this segment is all about. Look at the attacks at layer 2. Switch attacks categories. I like this statement. Security is only as strong as the weakest link in the system. Security is only as strong as the weakest link in the system. And layer 2 is considered to be that weak link. This is because LAN were traditionally under the administrative control of a single organization. We inherently trusted all persons and devices connected to our LAN. Today, BYOD, that is bring your own device, and more sophisticated attacks. With BYOD and more sophisticated attacks, our LANs have become vulnerable to penetration. So there is this illusion of I'm in charge of my local area network. All our stars are trusted. Nobody here is going to attack us. That is a costly mistake.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion. It's a costly mistake. So look at different attacks that we can have. And all of these attacks have solutions. MAC address table attacks. If I flood your MAC address table, your switch begins to operate like a switch. Your switch begins to operate like a hub. VLAN attacks. I can hop in between. If I enter into your trunk link, I gather all the information that has to do with your VLANs. DHCP attacks. I can staff your router, your DHCP server, and nobody will get IP address again on the network. If I come to your university as early as possible and collect all the IP addresses from your DHCP server, the rest of you will come to the office, you're not going to get IP address. And as long as you don't get IP address, you can't browse on the internet. ARP attack. I can send ARP request and broadcast and broadcast and broadcast until I bring down the network, or even spoof MAC address and say, okay, I'm looking for somebody's this IP address and get information. I can spoof IP address, and we can even attack spanning tree. That spanning tree we talked about the other day can also be attacked. And there is a tool that has most of these attacks inbuilt. I think Yersinia also. Yersinia, if you have Kali Linux, Yersinia. Yersinia is a tool in Kali Linux. Most of these attacks we are talking about now, you can use, you see the tools inside Yersinia to launch this attack. So it therefore means if I enter your university right now and plug my laptop and launch my Kali Linux and launch this Yersinia, I begin to send attack to you. And because you don't have visibility, you didn't configure, you didn't protect all these things we are talking about, you just be wondering, the network is slow, the network is not good, something is not, this is not happening, that's not happening. You are under attack. You are under attack. Solution. These are different attacks. So one of the things we can do, we can configure port security. What is port security? We're going to talk about port security. Port security, I can block down a port to prof and say only prof's computer can browse on this, only prof's computer can browse on this port. If Dr. Kwemi comes and plug on that port, he will not be allowed. That port will shut down if I configure it that way. DHCP snooping. It's a solution to our DHCP starvation. Somebody cannot pick all the IP addresses. I can protect against that. Dynamic app inspection. I can protect so that somebody does not use app to bring down my network. And we can even protect our source MAC address and IP addresses so that people don't spoof. So we need to be aware of all these attacks and know the solution to all the attacks. That is why what the remaining part of this chapter is all about. The attacks, the solution. The attacks, the solution. So we as network engineers, we need to be aware of this. Can we proceed, Prof?
Yes, sir.
This layer 2 solution will not be effective if the management protocols are not secure. Anytime you talk about management protocol, you are talking about access to your devices. Like you want to telnet in, or you are trying to download something, all of this, your SSH, HTTP, you know, for file transfer, they tell you on your browser on the net, PS and all of these stuff. That's what we are trying to talk about. You don't do one and leave the other. Okay, use a dedicated management VLAN where nothing but management traffic resides. We did that when we did VLAN. We dedicated a subnet to management VLAN. And you can use ACL. You have not done access control list. You are going to do it in another class. That is the next one after this is L3. To filter unwanted access. Access list more or less like your firewall at a lower level, only at layer 3 and layer 4. Basically, it's not a generation firewall team, next generation firewall. So what they are trying to say is this: with all these things, solution we want to bring to the table right now and effect or implement, we cannot leave the others undone. Just all the bad guy, the threat actor needs is just a crack in your wall. And once they get that crack in that wall, that's all. They don't need big door. Just a crack is more than enough for them. So the first attack, MAC address table attack. I've just summarized what it's all about. So we know how a switch operates. You put your MAC address in the MAC address table and put the port where you are attached. We understand this operation. So what can we do? Somebody can just sit down on a system like this, connected to your LAN, and begin to send multiple MAC addresses, different MAC addresses with the same port number to your switch. And look at the name of the software there, MACoff. This can be used to flood your MAC address table. And once this MAC address table is flooded, the switch begins to behave like a hub. Anything it gets, it falls to everybody. Anything it gets, it falls to everybody. So the hacker has a means of getting, harvesting data from your network. All MAC tables have a fixed size, and consequently, a switch can run out of resources in which to store MAC addresses, because this the database, or let me say the size, it has a definite, a fixed size. MAC address flooding attacks takes advantage of this limitation by bombarding the switch with fake source MAC addresses until the switch MAC address table is full. When this occurs, the switch treats the frame as unknown unicast, that's the broadcast now, and begin to flood all the incoming traffic to all ports on the same VLAN without referencing the MAC address table. This condition now allows the threat actor to capture all of the frames sent from one host to another on a local LAN or local VLAN. Note, traffic is flooded only within the local VLAN, local LAN or VLAN. The threat actor can only capture traffic within the local LAN or VLAN to which the threat actor is connected. So if it's on VLAN 10, it's going to be able to get information that has to do with VLAN 10. But it can finish on VLAN 10 and move to another VLAN. And move to another VLAN. And move to another VLAN. And keep on launching the same attack. So how do we mitigate against this? Let's find out. MAC address table attack mitigation. What makes tools such as MACoff, that's the name of the tools now, so dangerous is that an attacker can create a MAC address table overflow attack very quickly. For instance, a Catalyst 6500 switch can store 122,000 MAC addresses in its MAC address table. A tool such as MACoff can flood a switch with up to 8,000 bogus frames per second. Can you see that? creating a MAC address table overflow attack in a matter of few seconds. Another reason why these attacks are dangerous is because they not only affect the local switch, they can also affect other connected layer 2 switches, because broadcast is going to keep on happening. When the MAC address table of a switch is full, it starts flooding out all ports, including those connected to other layer 2 switches. So there's a ripple effect. To mitigate MAC address table overflow attacks, network administrator must implement, look at the solution here, port security. Port security will only addresses to be learned on the ports. Until is further discussed in another module. That is, we have that in chapter 11. Just this solution, just this technology, port security, will save the day. Let me digress quickly. Many years ago, some bad guys came from Lagos to Jos and got in touch with one computer engineer that repairs computer for, I can't remember the name of the bank. I think it's Union Bank. You can Google it and find out. Just to give them access into the bank. And the guy took them into the bank. They plugged to the network from within and they stole a lot of money. I think it's almost $1 billion or so. When they left, they gave that guy 1 million naira. I think one Unijust student who was also part of that. You can Google this. You see it on the net. When I heard that, I said, this doesn't make sense to me. So you mean they didn't lock down all their computers to the ports on the switch?
Ports.
If I have 20 computers and I'm not expecting any other computer, I lock down those ports. Say, this is Prof's computer. It can only work on port 1. This is Dr. PM's computer. It can only work on port 2. That is part of the security. You lock it down. But I realize that most of these banks, especially the branches, they don't have capable hands. It's only the good guys, the ones that know what they are doing now, always at the headquarters. And so the branches, they just leave them vulnerable. And they forgot that the weak link there is the one that will create trouble for the strong link.
Yeah, for the headquarters.
The headquarters. So you can Google that story.
Union Bank.
Yeah, I think it's Union Bank. Just you can Google a bank attack, something like a bank attack with a computer engineer in Jos, which involving Jos students, something like that. You're going to get to see the story, or I can check it and send it to you online.
I will be glad. Yeah.
Right. So still talking about LAN attacks. We've talked about MAC address table. This is another one here. VLAN Hopping attack. The hacker can connect to your trunk port. Look at what we were saying the other day when we did VLAN. This guy plug a computer to the switch and it's forming a trunk. The switch, we see this computer as if it's a switch.
Okay.
And it has formed a trunk with this computer. A software will be launched here. And trunking will be formed. That's why we say you should disable dynamic trunking protocol on this port. And you should also configure this port as switchboard mode access. You are only supposed to talk to a computer, not a switch. So it will never form trunking. These are some of the ways to secure that port. Because the moment this guy is able to form trunk with the switch, he can jump from one VLAN to another VLAN to another VLAN to another VLAN to another VLAN and gather information, and gather information, and gather information, and gather information. And that is called VLAN Hopping attack. So what does he do? A VLAN Hopping attacks enable traffic from one VLAN to be seen by another VLAN without the aid of a router. In a basic VLAN Hopping attack, the threat actor configures a host to act like a switch to take advantage of the automatic trunking port features enabled by default. That is the dynamic trunking on most switch ports. The threat actor configures the host to spoof 802.1q signaling and Cisco proprietary dynamic trunking protocol, signaling to trunk with the connected switches. Will send a message, can we form trunk? If successful, the switch establishes a trunk link with the host, just like we've seen it here. Now the threat actor can access all the VLAN on the switch. The threat actor can send and receive traffic on any VLAN, effectively hopping between VLANs. This is dangerous. So how do we protect? How do we protect? These are all long stories about how it does that. It's just going to tag itself also. You know, we talk about 802.1q and stuff. Okay, this one is another attack actually. VLAN double tagging attacks. It's related to the VLAN hopping. A threat actor is a specific situation could embed a hidden 802.1q tag inside the frame that already has an 802.1q tag. So it's embedding in one. This allows the frame to go to a VLAN that the original 802.1 tag queue did not specify. So I can move again and go to another VLAN. Step 1. The threat actor sends a double tag 802.1 queue frame to the switch. The outer header has the VLAN tag of the threat actor, which is the same as the native VLAN of the trunk port. Step 2. The frame arrives on the first switch, which looks at the first 4-byte 802.1 queue tag. The switch sees that the frame is destined for the native VLAN. That's a lie. The switch forward the packet out of all native VLAN after stripping the VLAN tag. The frame is not retagged because it is part of the native VLAN. At this point, the inner VLAN tag is still intact and has not been inspected by the first switch. The real one is inside. Step 3. The frame arrives at the second switch, which has no knowledge that it was supposed to be for the native VLAN. Native VLAN traffic is not tagged. We talked about that under VLAN and VLAN tracking by the sending switch as specified in the 802.1q specification. So what happened to the second switch? The second switch looks only at the inner 802.1q tag that the threat actually inserted and see that the frame is destined for D. This is why the guy is targeting. I mean, he's doing double tagging. He's moving from one VLAN to another VLAN to another VLAN to another VLAN, tagging and retagging, tagging and retagging, doing double tagging. The second switch sends the frame onto the target or flood it, depending on whether there's an existing MAC address table entry for the target. So your VLAN open and your VLAN double tagging, they kind of work together. We're still continuing here. A VLAN double tagging attack is unidirectional and works only when the attacker is connected to a port residing in the same VLAN as the native VLAN of the trunk port. The ideal is that double tagging allows the attacker to send data to hosts or servers on a VLAN that otherwise would be blocked by some type of access control configuration. So when he's done with the double tagging, it can move from one VLAN to the other. That's why I said they are related. Presumably, the return traffic will also be permitted. When they say it's unidirectional, it can go in one way. Of course, the reply will come back, thus giving the attacker the ability to communicate with devices on the normally blocked VLAN. You know, without your router, VLANs cannot talk to themselves. But this guy without a router will hop from one VLAN to another because of this double tagging. And look at the mitigation.
Sorry. Yes, how are you? I brought this side. Okay. Monster.
Just a minute, Prof. I'm coming. Hello, sir. Hello, Prof.
Just 1 minute, sir. I have just 1 minute and I'll be done.
It's okay.
Sorry, sir. Had some visitor coming to see me, but I'm ready now.
Okay, so can we continue, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Apparently, it looks like I'm the only one in the class. These people are not
You're the only one flowing with me. That's why when I say,
I'm
Prof, are you with
though.
me?
I will teach them. No problem, sir.
Now, you know, one thing about this chapter is it's most of the stuff they are self-explanatory. They are just things
Yeah,
that people can
indeed,
read
it is truly.
So, but we just have to go through it together.
Yes, you're right. They can read this one.
You can, so there's no big deal about this. The 10 and 11, they are just straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah. So how do we mitigate against this VLAN hopping? Yeah, and VLAN double attack. Look at what we have said. We said that when we did our VLAN, disable trunking on all access ports. Disable auto trunking on trunk links so that trunks must be manually enabled. And be sure that the native VLAN is only used for trunk links. And don't forget, we said you should change your native VLAN number. By default, it's VLAN 1. It's because of this kind of attacks. So that is how to mitigate against that particular one. The next one is DHCP.
One quick question.
Yes,
so
Prof.
how come Cisco does not disable all of this and then to ensure security, and then by disabling this, it forces the user to set it up on their own by ensuring that all access points, the trunking is disabled on all access points. I'm just wondering why Cisco
but
or any of these
for the access point, Cisco wouldn't know which port you want to use as trunk link or access port. But the one that doesn't make sense to me is this dynamic trunking protocol. They know we don't need it again. Then disable it by default.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the way equipment or devices have been coming out over the years, security was an afterthought for most of those things.
True.
They were not built in. Unlike now, most of the things coming out now, the securities are built in. It's like all these medical equipment like CT scan and the rest of them. Back in those days, they come on Windows. But by the time hackers put their eyes on those machines and they began hacking those machines, and people cannot, maybe you want to use the machine to do something and they've taken over. Most of the ones that are coming out nowadays, they're on Linux.
Linux, yeah.
So back in those days, they were like, oh, we're going to hack into our medical equipment to do what? What for? So they are bolting in security into things coming out now. That's why you buy some devices now, they force you to change password because they know people will not change the password. They will still use the default password.
True.
And then later on, if you are in a site, they force you to change your password after some times because they know you will never change that password. And these are good security, they are good security features for. So things are improving because of the generation we find ourselves now. Hackers have become sophisticated.
Very, very.
So this is about DHCP. We'll talk about the operation of DHCP when we did DHCP Discover, Alpha, and the rest of them. But bad guys, threat actor can also take advantage of this. What can they do? They can staff us of IP addresses. Somebody can plug to your network and collect all the IP addresses. Only one computer. I need IP address. I need IP address. I need IP address. I need IP until you exhaust your DHCP server completely. That's called DHCP starvation attack. So the goal of this attack is to create a DOS for connecting clients. DHCP starvation attack requires an attack tool such as Gobler. And most of these tools are in Kali Linux. All it needs for one threat actor that knows what he's doing is just to come to your organization, plug the computer on the network, and begin to unleash attacks on you.
You said that they are on Kali Linux.
Kali Linux, Kali.
Is that a tool?
Kali Linux is an operating system that has attack tools.
Okay. Oh, Kali.
Yeah.
I need to get that.
Yeah. So once you can install it in your virtual box, and then you begin to launch attack.
Virtual box. I'll just find a small computer and install it.
So that you can, most of these tools we're mentioning, we're talking about, they can be found in Kali Linux.
Interesting.
What about DHCP spoofing attack? I can pretend as if I'm the DHCP server, and computers will come to me to look for IP addresses. Guess what I'm going to do to them? I'll give them fake, wrong default gateway address, wrong DNS address, wrong IP address. Maybe we are on 192.168.100.0/24. I can give them maybe 193. They will never be able to browse. They will never be able to go to the internet because I pointed them to the wrong thing, to the wrong IP addresses or wrong default gateway. And sometimes giving them wrong default gateway doesn't mean they will not be able to browse, but there may be the man in the middle. They should pass through me. So as long as you pass through me, I have information about you. I can grab a packet. I can grab all your details because you are passing through me. We can point you to a wrong DNS server, and that is a malicious website. It will help you to resolve, but you are under attack already. So many things can go wrong with DHCP also. And so we can have starvation attack, we can have spoofing attack. So how do we protect against that? We're going to see it because it's related to HAP. HAP attack is I can clone your MAC address and respond on your behalf. And when I respond on your behalf, I can be a man in the middle. You will still get the message. I can be in between. You get the message. But what is happening is I am in the middle already. That's what they call man in the middle. Getting the message, giving it to you. Getting the message, giving it to you. Getting the message, giving it to you. But before I give it to you, I make a copy of the messages. I also have the message. That is what's one of the ways people can do ARP attack. You can even imitate, or let me say clone, the MAC address of a router that is supposed to be a default gateway. So when people are looking for the router, you respond, I am here. Because when the computer wants to go out to the internet and he knows that his default gateway is 192.168.1.1 and he doesn't know the MAC address of that default gateway, it sends a HAP request. Hello, if you are the owner of this IP address, could you please give me your MAC address? I need to send a message through you. The bad guys will respond with their own MAC address. The message goes through them first, then I forward it to the router. These are different HAPs attacks that you can have. I'm just summarizing now. But how do we mitigate? We can mitigate by configuring dynamic app inspection. Dynamic app inspection works better with DHCP database. What do I mean by that? When the router gives you IP address, it puts your MAC address along with the IP address that is given to you. That is the operation of DHCP server. When I put this command on top of my router, what I'm simply trying to tell the router, now you are the one giving out these IP addresses, and you know the people you give IP address to, you know their MAC addresses. If tomorrow somebody now come with a different MAC address for the same IP address, you know that that's a problem there. So we are going to inspect the DHCP database to see the IP address given the MAC address, the IP address given the MAC address, the IP address given the MAC address. So they go hand in hand. So that is why when you talk about DHCP starvation, spoofing, and HAP attacks, the mitigation goes together. Let me say the configuration is not. Maybe it's in the next. The configuration goes together for us to be able to secure the computers on the network. So that is under ARP attack. Also, you have address spoofing. Address spoofing is spoofing your IP address. I can spoof your IP address. We can spoof your MAC address. But majorly here is the context is talking about IP address. And one of the ways also to mitigate against us is by configuring IP source guard. IP source guard also work in relation with that DHCP database. We know your IP address, we know your MAC address. So somebody cannot come on the network and say, I am 192.168.100.2. We already have a mapping of the MAC addresses and the IP addresses of all the computers on the network. And these are means you lock down your network at layer 2. So somebody cannot just come and imitate, or let me say duplicate your IP address. So that is so the address spoofing attack, the ARP attack, and DHCP attack, the mitigation are very close together. We're supposed to see it in the next part where you see the configuration. So the commands to put to mitigate against this thing are like 3 different commands or 4. They go together most of the time. So you need to know what the attacks are. Spanning tree. also can be attacked. What kind of attack? We can fake who becomes a root bridge. Bad guys can plug their computer like this, form trunking with a switch.
Not hearing nor seeing again. Let me see my alternate.
Hello, Prof. Can you hear me? Hello, sir.
Okay, it's back now.
Okay.
It's back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So threat actor can connect to your switch, just like we said earlier. Form trunk with your switch, and the guy can declare himself to be the root bridge. How? Just form one bit for itself now, lower the bit, and it becomes the root bridge. So all the switches on the network, all the way leads to the threat actor, because the guy has declared himself to be the root bridge. How? He changed the bit, and by the time election is conducted, he's going to win the election.
That's true.
So how do we do that? We do that by how do we protect rather? One of the ways we protect against planetary attack is to configure BPDU guards. And that also will be discussed tomorrow. That is the next chapter. Some of these attacks we are talking about, the solution is in tomorrow's class.
Okay.
So you see, when you are configuring your switch, it's not just enough to configure or set up a technology. You also need to know how to secure that technology, because almost every technology has one limitation or the other, or vulnerability or the other. Or let me say, the threat actors have found a way around it. They will use it to attack you back. And we must know how to protect this technology. Okay, so let's proceed. I'm going to be fast now. You say you have meeting by 12, and I want to finish this chapter. CDP is a protocol. CDP is a protocol. I don't know if you people talk about CDP. It's a layer 2 discovery protocol. You can use it to see other devices around. It's a Cisco proprietary protocol. There's another one called LLDP. That one is for other vendors. Basically, what this device does is if I have a switch here, I mean a router here, two routers connected together. If I don't know the details of this router here, if this protocol is activated on router, let's say this is router A, this is router B. If I go to this router and say show CDP neighbor detail, it will tell me the detail about this my neighbor, his IP address, subnet mask, the interface is used to connect to me, the kind of router it is. It will give me information about this router. But that is only going to happen if this protocol is active on both routers, and they are always active by default. So they are telling us this is dangerous. Disable it. Meaning somebody can plug a computer, a threat actor, launch is a software to make itself look like a router, and if you show CDP neighbor, it gets details about this your router, IP addresses, subnet maps, the model of the router, the version of the operating system, everything. So they are telling us this is not good. Disable it. You can disable it at global configuration mode, or you can disable this at interface mode. That is basically what they are trying to talk about in this place. It has a good side. It's a double-edged sword. If you know you don't need it, disable it. This is Cisco Discovery Protocol. Is to get information about your neighbors, directly connected neighbors. And if you are using non-Cisco router, this is how to disable it on other routers, other vendors. And this is not just about routers, it also works on switches also. Is it clear, sir?
Yes, sir. Very
good. So let's move to the last part. Switch security configuration. The first part is port security. I don't know why port security is here. It's not supposed to be here. How do you secure your ports? The first thing you should do is you should secure unused port. And how do you secure unused port? Shut them down. Shut them down. If you have a 24-port switch and you know that you're only using maybe 10 ports, the remaining 14 should be shut down manually.
okay.
Manually go to those ports and shut them down. Because you shouldn't just leave port hanging Anybody can just come in and plug to that port and the person is in your network. Shut them down. That is first thing to do. And you can use range command. I taught us how to use range command. Enter all the ports that are not in use, shut them down. Mitigate MAC address table attack. How do we mitigate? You can limit the numbers of MAC addresses allowed on a port to just the one MAC address or two MAC address. What I'm trying to say is this. So if I have a port here, I can say this port. When Prof plugs to you, this is Prof system. Learn Prof's MAC address and lock it down. So I can say the maximum MAC address you can lock down is 1. I can give room for 2. I can give room for 3. I can give room for 4. Why would I want to give room for 2, 3, or 4? Maybe you are up to 2 or 3 in your office. But if I'm sure you are the only one in the office and you are using just one laptop, I don't have a reason to tell this port to lock down 2 MAC addresses. 1 is okay for me.
Sure.
So if another person comes, here comes Dr. Kweyemi. Prof, can I just browse through? Let me just connect to your port. This port can shut down or just restrict Dr. Kweyemi based on the configuration we have done on the switch. So with port security, you can control unauthorized access to the network. You lock down all the users. If there's another user tomorrow that you are not aware of, it is better that way that you now come and increase the numbers of ports to be allowed on that port. The number of MAC addresses rather to be allowed on that port than just leaving it open to everybody. Okay, beautiful. Look at the configuration here. Port security. How do you say port security? Did you see the command? Switch ports, port security. Bro, can you see the command? Hello, sir.
Hello. Yes, I can see the command.
You go to the interface.
Yes.
Excuse me. Sorry, I think I got cold yesterday.
I'm sorry about that too.
Yeah, thank you. So
I'm
you
glad.
go to the interface. Thank you, sir. You go to the interface and say switch port security. But look at what it's going to do to you.
Command
If
rejected.
it's command rejected because DTP is enabled on that interface.
Okay.
So what do we need to do to disable DTP? Switch port mode access.
Yes.
Then we'll now say switch port security.
Okay.
When you say switch port security, it has activated that port security, but there are options there. Let me just take you to the switch and show you fast. That will not take time. I think I closed my packet tracer. Let me launch it again. Can you see my packet tracer, Prof?
Yeah, I think it's loading. It's coming through.
When you can see, let me know, sir. Can you see it?
It hasn't come up, but I'm now connecting with. I'll try and connect with another one now. Okay, it's up now.
Okay, good. So let me go to this switch. Just pick any of the ports to demonstrate this. So let's say show interfaces. Let me see what interface we have there. Okay, fast internet are there. Let me just pick any port to demonstrate this now. Interface fast internet 0/4. Switch ports, port security. Did you see? This port is a dynamic port.
Yes,
I want to disable that. Switch port mode, access. Then I can now say switch port security. That is not the end. The moment I say switch port security, I can go back and then put question mark. Look at, I can say maximum, let's start from maximum MAC address. So I can say maximum, switch port security maximum. If I put 1 now, the first person to plug to this port, the switch will learn that MAC address and lock it down.
And that's it.
And that's it. Nobody can use that port again. If I want to increase it to 2, I put 2. So if I leave it like this, what about violation? If they should violate this rule, this policy, what's going to happen? I can say switch port security violation. What do I want the switch to do? I can say shut down that port.
Yeah, they'll come and see you.
Until I come back and activate it manually with no shutdown again. I can say restrict that person. Restrict is nice. No. Protect is nice. You just restrict the person. One, restrict, protect will just not allow the person, but restrict will not allow, will disallow the person, but will log it. It will inform me as the administrator. Somebody tried to use this port, but I didn't allow the person. So most of the time, I want to shut down. So now that I have allowed 2 MAC addresses, Prof plugged, the switch will lock it down. Dr. Kwame plugged, it will lock it down. Then here comes Dr. Professor Shaz, is this Shaggy? Or Adekule? Plug to that port, the port will just get angry, shut itself down. Why? Okay. They violated the policy. This is what the bank should have done. Just say switch port security maximum 1. That's all. But sometimes you don't want the switch to learn the MAC addresses. You can put it manually. Switch port security MAC address. Then I build the MAC address myself.
Wow, okay.
Tell the port, this is the MAC address I want you to lock down. That's the only MAC address that can work there. I can add more than 1. This is the power of port security. We're still going to talk more about that tomorrow. Okay. So let's move quickly. Is it clear, sir?
It's clear. It's clear to me.
Beautiful. So enable port security. You can see. Now we can use this command to see what's happening about a particular interface. Show port security interface faster than 0/1. You can tell that port security is enabled. Violation mode is shut down. Maximum MAC address we activated is just 1. You can give us details about that particular interface. Note, if an active port is configured with the switch port security command and more than 1 device is connected to that port, how? What if we drop another switch on that port and other people are now added here? What's going to happen? Error disabled state is to shut itself down. And error disabled state is not working. The only way for you to get it out is to say no shutdown. So these are other commands that I showed you earlier. Switch port security. You can put a particular MAC address. You can tell it to learn. You can go to violation. Aging, you can tell how long you want it to learn the MAC address and keep it secure. So all of that things is just story about switch port security maximum, the number, or 2 or 3, depending on the numbers. And look at what they said here. The default port security value is 1. So if I just stop at switch port security, it will only learn my 1 MAC address and lock it down.
Okay.
But if I want to go beyond 1, I have to indicate. Okay. The maximum number of secure MAC addresses that can be configured depend on the switch and the iOS. In this example, this switch can learn 8,192 ports. 92 MAC addresses on 1 port. You can see this one.
Yes.
But this will not make sense because we want to enhance security. We'll factor in only the people that will be using that place, this thing. So in limiting and learning our MAC addresses, we can configure it manually. That's the one I showed that you say switch port security, you put the MAC address. You can tell it to learn automatically. And when it's learned automatically, you can tell it to make it sticky. What is the meaning of that? When the switch learns MAC address, if you restart that switch, that MAC address is gone. But if you put sticky command, it will not, when it's done loading, the MAC address will still be, that MAC address that it has learned will still be applicable. I don't know if I'm making sense to you, sir. Let me go to Packet Tracer again and see if it support that option. MAC address. Sticky. Beautiful. See, if I put this command, switch ports, port security, MAC address, sticky, what will happen? Or let me say, if I don't put it, what's going to happen? That MAC address that my switch has learned, if somebody should restart that switch, that's the end of that MAC address that it has learned.
Yeah.
But if I don't want that situation, if I want the situation, and even if you restart the switch, the MAC address you've learned, you still keep it. I will say switch port, port security, MAC address, sticky. Is it clear, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. So you can see all the commands here.
Yes.
Done this already. Switch port, remote access, port security. You want maximum 4. You can put manually. You can say sticky. You can do all of this. So the aging, you can decide how long it stays, and you can say, I want it to stay forever in the MAC address table. When you learn the MAC address, lock it down to this thing. Aging, I don't want it to time out at all. That is what aging is all about. You can see the command here, switch port security aging time. You can decide to say, or you can say when there's no activity on that port at all, for you get rid of that MAC address that you have learned. That violation, shut down, restrict, and protect. I hope that is what I said. Protect does not generate this log. No log is sent. If you just log that person, it will not allow you to use that port, but it will not generate. Okay, so these are different ways. You can say switch port security violation.
Okay.
Or protect. You decide, but I think the default is shut down. The default is shut down. If you don't indicate this, it's just going to shut down that interface. And when your port is in error disabled state, you have to go back into that port and say shut down, then no shutdown. If your port has been shut down because the policy was violated, you have to go into that port and say shut down and then no shutdown. How will you know that the port is in error disabled state? You can see when you put the command show interface /0/18, that's the interface now. It will tell you that that port is down, the line protocol is down, but look at what is here. It's in error disabled state. Why? Why will a port enter error disabled state? Because the policy was violated.
Yeah.
So how do we bring the port back? We go to the interface and say shutdown, and then immediately after that we say no shutdown. That is how to bring a port out of error disabled state.
Okay.
Are we together, sir?
Yes, sir.
Shutdown and no shutdown. And then for you to verify the ports that are locked down or the numbers of MAC addresses locked down, show port security. You can see the count. This one MAC address, one MAC address, one MAC address, and so on and so forth. Okay, show port security. You can see a particular interface just to get the details about that interface and all the security stuff, port security details of that particular interface. Port security is a big deal for switch, and these are all the configuration that were done. Show run, you pipe it, begin interface /0/19. You can see the commands, the configuration that were done here. Same thing with what we'll be talking about. You can see the MAC addresses that are sticky with show port security address. And that is that about port security. I think we're still going to talk about port security tomorrow. I don't know why it's here. I have to check my chapter 11. Maybe it's a repetition again. I don't know. So mitigate VLAN attacks. We've discussed it. Let's see the commands. VLAN attacks. Make sure you always configure switch port mode access for the access port. For the access port, make sure you configure switch port mode access. That will disable what do you call it? To disable the DTP on that interface. Okay. Then when you come down to the trunk point, what about the trunk point? Manually activate your trunking and say switch port non-negotiate. That is what disable the trunking dynamic TP on that trunk port. And then you come down and now say switch port trunk native. Don't forget to change your native VLAN. This is how you mitigate against what do you call it? VLAN hopping attack. Put the port as access port, put it in the particular VLAN it belongs to. If it is a trunk port, make it trunking manually, disable the dynamic trunking, and change your native VLAN. Because the hackers don't know that you have VLAN, this VLAN number you are using. They know VLAN 1 by default. They don't know other VLANs. What about DHCP attack? How do we take care of DHCP attack? We've explained it earlier. Let's check out the configuration. Should be somewhere here. Oh, beautiful. On the interface that connects to your DHCP server, look at our DHCP server here. It's supposed to be dishing out IP addresses to people on the other side. This port here should be configured as a trusted port. And that's why we need this command. IP DHCP snooping trust. We'll go to this switch and say the only trusted port to give out IP addresses from is this interface. If tomorrow now one hacker now plugs here now and want to start dishing out IP address, the switch will lock it down. I don't know you to be my DHCP server. Why are you sending IP addresses? Am I communicating, sir?
Yes, sir. Do breaking once in a while. But
okay. What about now?
Yes, it's good now. It's good now.
So I need to configure the port that is connected to my DHCP server as the only trusted port and tell my switch this is the only port you can trust. If any other person plug and start dishing out IP addresses, block that person. This is the only port where IP addresses can be dished out.
Okay.
And that is the reason for this command. This interface is connected to our DHCP server.
Okay.
This one is optional, but this one is not optional. We can decide to say, okay, this command we configure now, we want to implement it for VLAN 5, VLAN 10, VLAN 50 to 22. You specify the VLAN where you want it to be applicable. And when you decide that a port that is connected to your DHCP server is trusted, guess what happened to all other ports? They are all untrusted ports. Don't ever think about dishing out IP addresses. I will block you. That is how we protect from DHCP starvation.
Okay.
Or let me say DHCP attack in the first place. Starvation is no, that is not for starvation. The other DHCP attack, that is the spoofing now. The DHCP spoofing when other person want to give out IP addresses, which could be wrong IP details. This is how you protect against it.
Okay.
You plug down the port connected to the DHCP server and designate it as trusted port. We need to continue. So if we have activated this DHCP snooping, we can check it out on our switch. So IP DHCP snooping, you will see that it's configured for VLAN 5, VLAN 10, 50 to 22, and you will see the trusted ports here. All other ports are untrusted when you want to verify. Show IP DHCP, and you can also do show IP DHCP, show IP DHCP snooping binding. What are you going to see? The switch will keep a, what do you call it, a database of MAC addresses and IP addresses of computers. MAC address, IP address given to them. MAC address, IP address given to them. MAC address, IP address given to them. The switch will keep a local database of that. But take note of this. DHCP snooping is also required by dynamic app inspection. If we want to go and log down app, we don't want app attack. We need this DHCP snooping. That's why I tell you they work together. This one can stand alone, but HAP cannot stand. Dynamic HAP inspection cannot stand alone.
Okay.
So when you want to do that, mitigate against HAP attack, how do we do that? We have explained that already. Look at the command here. IP DHCP snooping. You can activate it for a particular VLAN. Look at HAP, IP HAP inspection. That's the command now, VLAN 10. We want to activate dynamic app inspection for VLAN 10. But if we put this command and DHCP snooping is not activated, it's not going to work. And of course, don't forget we have activated IP DHCP snooping trust command on the interface that is connected to our DHCP server. And this is another command we need to add to it. On that interface that's connected to our DHCP server, we also want to inspect app. That is why you have IP app inspection trust. DHCP snooping trust will be there. IP app inspection trust command will also be there. So what are we trying to do right now? Dynamic app inspection to mitigate against address resolution protocol attacks. Can you hear me, Prof?
Yes.
I'll
But
soon be done.
the
Yeah,
slide,
any question?
no, the slide that
I'm not hearing you, sir.
I say the slide that I'm seeing is AI configuration example. Okay, yes. It's fine. It's fine now.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I don't know why. Okay, so that is the summary about HAP. Let me see if there's any other thing we need to do. STP attacks. There are other additional configuration. Maybe you just read it up. You say you have a meeting by 12. That's why I'm rushing. We have 8 minutes to go. So probably you can read it out in the curriculum. Other optional commands that you can decide to inspect: source MAC address, destination MAC address, combination of the two, source IP address, destination IP address, and so on and so forth. This is probably additional commands to further secure what do you call it? IP spoofing, or let me say address spoofing. So what about the STP attack? We can, of course, we can block down our ports that connects to the computer with switch port mode access. We've talked about that. This is another command I mentioned briefly under STP, but I told you that it's no longer needed when you want your ports to jump to forwarding straight if you are running the regular STP. But you may not need this command if you are running the rapid spanning tree. And if you want that, this is if you want to activate it on just one port. But if you want to activate it on all the ports, you issue this command at global configuration mode. So that is for port fast. So that's the end of this. Port fast is no longer in use. But the one I would have loved to talk about, I believe in the next chapter, is BPDU guard and root guard. So probably next tomorrow's class, we are going to see all of this. So I rushed at the destination. Any questions, sir?
Very much, sir. But I'm hoping that you help
So I will
us
send the recording so that you can go through it again.
Then, in addition to the recording, I don't know whether you can also help us send your slides.
Yeah, I can send the slides to you. No problem, sir.
Okay. Maybe all of them, because I think it would be easier to read the slide when one is revising. Yeah. Maybe all the ones we've done, or you just give us a link to your Google.
No, I can always send. I can send it to the WhatsApp group, sir.
Yes, that would be fine.
Yeah.
We can look through, because I found out that when one has to read the slide, it's easier to remember what you are teaching.
Yes, I just discovered something now. I did not remember. It's like there was a time I taught this. I merged two chapters together, the chapter 10 and 11. So I was wondering, why are these things here now?
You just kept on going, yeah.
So I merged 10 and 11 together.
That means we've done 11.
Yes, 10 and 11. So but I will still send you the PowerPoint.
Help us send the PowerPoint and the recording, and then ask us some questions. I will push them to read it or listen.